All the cards are laid out on the table in a tense and rewarding season finale that wraps up all of our major storylines and yet leaves a nice taste of things to come. It's Mr. Robot, episode 3.9, shutdown-r. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Mr. Robot. So yes, spoilers, they're happening pretty much starting now. Alright, so wow, what a way to wrap up the finale. Always expecting a certain cliffhanger when we end these. Really didn't expect things to go the way that they did, and yet was very rewarding the fact that they did. Honestly, with the whole 5-9 and the stage 2 and the hack of everything, it was starting to draw out. So the fact that they were able to sort of wrap up all of those storylines and yet let us know what Elliot's next step is going to be, I thought was a perfect way to wrap up season 3. And just to let you know, this morning, right before the season finale was aired, USA did announce that they have granted a season 4, so they have renewed it for the next season. Of course they were going to. They were just leaving us in a little bit of anticipation about that announcement. So yes, all set up. We are definitely moving forward with with Elliot's new plan. Now, I really wanted to start this week with talking about the camera work in this episode. I mean, they do a lot of beautiful stuff with camera. They always take time with their cinematography in framing shots. But really, there was so much interesting camera work and layering of imagery from the first scene out where we have the Dark Army breaking into Elliot's apartment there. And we get that beautiful, like, 3/4 downward shot that sort of swoops and moves in. I mean, it just gave such a great feel to that moment of tension and excitement and worry. It was just beautifully done. We had the shot behind Mr. Robot when Elliot finally meets with him on the Ferris wheel, which I thought was beautiful. When Elliot asks him about the 71 buildings that collapse, and we have that shot, and right behind Mr. Robot, the car behind is sliding forward with the noise, almost looking like it's going to take off his head as he ponders that and readies his answer for him. It gave that extra level of internal tension to that scene. We also had we had the overhead shots when we got back to the farm, but after that nasty Irving Santiago Dom scene, as we started to pull back and we get the image of Dom and Irving there as he's chopping down again and again onto Santiago, this one's personal, was just, again, it was already a visceral enough scene the way that was played out, but that last final shot was just a topper. So it was one thing and even that last bit that we had with the final little coda scene where we have Darlene and her new friend talking about about the possible return. Things are going to come up here. But just a single long shot, really holding everything as they swooped around and the car followed and then it came back, and then for our final reveal, it was really beautifully done. This is one show, again, they take the time for proper cinematography, for doing interesting camera work, and it really plays with handling the tension and the moments and conveying the emotion that we want brought to those scenes. Now, seeing that this episode was to be a real wrap-up of our whole sort of 5-9 situation, I think that they did the pacing of it also really well. We didn't spend a lot of time dwelling on things. You know, it opens up, we've got, Santiago already going after Darlene and yanking her out. Dom figuring out very much immediately that Santiago was doing some sort of cover-up. Well, she gets the question. She doesn't figure out until just a moment too late, which, Dom, you should have followed your suspicions. It was pretty much laid out for you ahead of time. But her confrontation with Santiago was quick. Again, they didn't dwell things out before he even gets her down to the car. and that smack in the face, God, Santiago, was beautifully done. It was nice that they kept these things moving, even when we had Irving's little encounter with Elliot and Mr. Robot. I love that we have Mr. Robot and Elliot getting back together when he has that scene in the arcade right beforehand, and he sees the frustration that he can't do things by himself, that he needs help, and that's his call out to Mr. Robot. And how we find out that Elliot could have done this anytime, that this wasn't Mr. Robot in any way controlling or avoiding, that it was Elliot, while missing Mr. Robot, not wanting to allow himself to make that step, to make that connection, so that they do it on a neutral ground of the Ferris wheel, something from the childhood I thought was really nicely and beautifully done. But now that they're working together and they go to Santiago's place, the fact that Irving, boom, is right there and just says, look, I love the interruption too in that scene where we have Elliot thinking, option, option, option. And right in the middle of that, Irving's like, look, whatever you're trying to lay out right now, let's just skip it. Knowing how things can go, let's go to the quick and easy way. It was just a beautiful bit of storyline. I love Irving as a character. It's just awesome. But the fact that they kept things moving and going, and we get back to our farm where they held Tyrell Wellick for so long, and getting all of our characters together for the next step forward. I loved the connections. I love the force of character. I love Elliot and Mr. Robot getting back together, and the fact that they got to that pretty quick storytelling-wise. Kept the pace going, which then in the following scenes really added the tension. So let's talk about the Dom and Santiago stuff there with Irving. Really waiting for this. I love that Dom was immediately able, when she woke up in the back of the car, to piece it all together and to see, oh yeah, China, while you were asleep and we all got killed, and and then you framed Trenton and Mobley, and then every time that we had a moment we were getting close, you turned us around. I mean, it was good. She finally pieced all of this together that's been floating in the back of her head. Fortunately, it was about 12 hours too late. Maybe a little bit less. She should have been on top of that so much sooner. And a tragic path that she follows through this episode. Santiago, don't really have much sympathy for. Well, I mean, certainly as he starts to try and play off to Dom in the car ride over to the farm, you don't know what I've had to do and such, that justification really was ringing pretty hollow. But when they take that little walk with Irving, you had to feel a certain little sympathy for Santiago. Well, I mean, for a moment. Because when it all comes down, and even Dom, who is so adamant, even as Santiago is getting axed to the chest, that she is not going to turn, that she is going to call the police immediately, and Irving really lays out the reality of the situation. You're not thinking clearly enough. You're not thinking about your family, your kids, your nephews, the people that we could hurt. It's not you we're going to hurt. It's them. So for half a moment, you do feel a certain, well, I felt a certain sympathy for Santiago. Momentarily, it passed quickly. And the fact that even when he thought that Dom was going to be killed, he was still trying to save her life. Look, just turn. She can be useful. Unfortunately, oversold her. But I think the fact that he was going out was kind of Irving's intention for the moment that they left the barn, if not even earlier. While he was bummed they had to sort of turn that, they do have a new potential agent that could rise further through the ranks. He's planning forward. But like he said, Santiago was a dickhead. He was certainly willing to take those final shots for himself. And even when Santiago was in the bar yelling at Irving about taking care of it, to me that was just, all I'm thinking is, oh, you are dead, dude. Do not throw this in Irving's face. He is not the guy that you cross. He talks funny. He seems likable. But obviously the whole act scene pretty much lays it out. So really feeling for Dom as she tells Darlene afterwards, with some definite switch of emotion going on right there, you've taken everything. All of her dedication, all of her loyalty, all of her belief in things being right and being her own person, all of that is now gone, and she sees it clearly, the path laid out. She's a tool for the Dark Army, no matter what she wants, because they have everyone else that she cares about they can threaten. And then each act she does further buries herself until one day she knows she could be Santiago sitting there under an axe. Now, Elliot, of course, playing a very dangerous game this episode. Not that he has much options available to him. But what I found interesting is the fact that how much he reached out for Mr. Robot and needed him for discussions to weigh things. It seemed like he needed his help. Once we really got to the barn, it was Elliot that was really in control. Mr. Robot trying to give advice about we're in danger, we need to find this guy. Okay, there's 2 guys I count here. You know, he's trying to be all the info guy and the plan guy. But Elliot already has control. It's almost like he didn't really need Mr. Robot for assistance. He needed that confidence, that willingness to be able to open up to that other side of him, as he put so much, that each of them has a little bit of each other in them. And that really felt like it is, because once he was in the barn, even as much as Darlene is saying, no, I am not okay. I'm in a barn in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by psychos. He's really pretty much in control. He seems to know automatically that White Rose is watching. Yes, he can see the camera above, and he knows we're still alive, so we're waiting for something. The more time that we have, the more options that we have to play. Of course, who they're waiting for is Grant to show up to finally finish off Mr. Alderson that he's been wanting to so badly. But, like White Rose tells him later on, your jealousy gets in the way of you seeing things. And really kind of evident there, even the moment when Irving was leaving. And that was a great insight into Irving, too, to know that Irving was Grant. That he was White Rose's old lover years ago. But he survived through all of that, and now he moves on as a fixer. And it really explains his confidence in dealing with everything, his nonchalant approach in a way of seeing it all, because he probably has, plus also knowing the reality of who's really in control. When he pulled Mr. Robot up there and really pointed out, it's those people up there, that 1% of the 1%, the people that are really in control. Those are the ones that are in charge of everything. We're just moving things around for them. So it really explains a lot of Irving's personality, and that he's not taking crap from anyone, let alone Grant, which was hilarious. So when we do have Grant coming in and laying out, and Elliot finally revealing what's going on. Do we have control of the Dark Army's computers? Yes. And I can release all of this information. Yes, it's a good standard blackmail bit. I like the move. Certainly makes sense. I also enjoy that Grant, as the evil antagonist, is like, nah, we could take a little bit of exposure. It's not the threat of that. That's not the way that you get to White Rose. How do you get to White Rose? You promise to get things done, or you have the ability to get things done that she wants. And the proof that Elliot knows that Elliot has that he's in the system also revealed to him the fact that White Roses has been able to get her plant out. So the stick doesn't work, then we throw in the carrot, which is probably a better reversal for Elliot in the position with guns to his and Darlene's head. And of course, Tom just sitting there like, there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to watch it all go down. But a lot of, again, there was so much tension in all of these moments throughout until we finally get to the sort of last reveal here, was really handled so well. Never knew for a moment if Darlene was going to end up getting sacrificed and Elliot would have to, I mean, you knew Elliot probably wasn't going to die. It's his show. But Darlene certainly felt, I think, expendable at that moment. So I think they really held that tension great. And when it gets down to the moment, and then you have Leon just, bam, bam, take out all the Dark Army guys. That was awesome. Because it's like, because he knew. The call came after, and I don't think he had a little earpiece, so he knew what White Rose would want. Which is why it was perfect when White Rose does call up and talks to Grant and says, your jealousy always blinded you. Even Leon saw what the best move was right here. Whereas Leon seems to be taking care of everything. I love him. He scares me, but I love him. So it was perfect, and therefore Grant can't be that close. I do wonder, it sort of felt the way White Rose was saying goodbye, that this was a serious goodbye, that I thought Leon was going to end up killing Grant there. The fact that Grant killed himself, that was a little much. But for someone as jealous and now losing that which he values the most, you would imagine, seemed to be a pretty straightforward way of saying goodbye. Now, if the whole time travel thing comes up, and that's what White Rose meant when she said, after all this is done, I'll come and find you, that kind of gives an interesting other interpretation, but really the fact that it's willing to make that move to, without her, I don't even want to be here, that's some hardcore dedication. But it's very good that Elliot could do what he wanted. I love that last line from Mr. Robot. I hope you weren't BSing. I hope you could do what you said you were going to do. And immediately Leon's got the computer right here. Do it. Say it. They went out. They did the reversal of the 5.9 hack. I was surprised that Dom could access Sentinel from out. I thought it was in a closed system, and therefore they had to do it from the FBI office. I guess not. It was my misunderstanding there. And then with that, suddenly able to undo everything in a moment's notice. Well, almost. And before I get into that, let's talk about Angela, who was not picked up by the Dark Army and carried off to some execution, which seemed like a possibility. The guys didn't look Dark Army, but you never know. But no, picked up and taken to Price's place, where we basically get our reveal. That was kind of surprising. Well, almost. One of our viewers, Cole, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, and I were having a little discussion where he was wondering if perhaps we had a father-daughter relationship with Price and Angela. And of course, from what we find out today, you were right, Cole, there was. And thinking about it, I originally was feeling that there was almost like some sort of romantic relationship with them, but looking back at season 2, there was never any real sexual component. There was a certain level of love and adoration that didn't seem to make sense, but there was never any physical component that Philip tried to move on or suggest in any way. So really, once we kind of get this, it really clarifies everything that had happened before. That this was a love child, and his power had gone to his head. He treated her mom badly. The further and further the pregnancy got along, in order to sort of prove his own strength. So, which at that point, as long as the relationship before, so as soon as the pregnancy was discovered, the mom was like, "You are not the guy. You're a cruel little bastard," because that's the way that he was going. But that explains all of the leeway that he was giving to Angela as a form of actually protecting her and keeping her away, keeping an eye on her so that White Rose couldn't come in. So really very powerful in that, especially Angela kind of grasping the reality that the whole lie, we're just going to say it's a lie here at the moment, certainly from Price's point of view, of the time travel, that's not going to happen, that this was simply used as a way to manipulate Angela, and now that she has to accept the weight of her responsibility. I just thought that was a really powerful, quiet scene between these two characters. And of course, our final wrap-up of the whole 5.9 incident was beautiful. Really, we had the moment that clarified the whole Kevin McAllister situation, that no, Elliot's memory of being pushed out of the window by his father wasn't real. That something had come over him, he was acting strange, put his sister, put Darlene in the closet, and then confronted Dad, attacked the window, threw himself out the window. And I wonder almost if that was another Mr. Robot incident. Because as I'm saying, Mr. Robot seemed to appear first when they went to the movies and Dad dropped down and Elliot walked and went into the movies. He was talking to himself. It was almost that was the manifestation of Mr. Robot. And I'm wondering if this whole Kevin McAllister thing was the same incident, that this was that other side of Elliot responding back, making its presence known. And that's why he was acting weird and doesn't remember it that way. And I think through that, that's why he tells Darlene, just give me some time. I want to wrap this up. I want to take another ride, to clarify things with Mr. Robot. To almost show that was the time, that was the birth. That is their relationship in so many levels, in so many ways, that it's been around that long. I love the realization that it was Mr. Robot that moved the key, put it on a disc, which of course what we zoomed into at the very opening part of the episode. Love that, you're bringing it all around. And then he did it because there is so much of Elliot in him as well, even though that's not what he was created and what he's there for. The fact that he is quite aware of himself as just a part, a figment, a manifestation inside of Elliot was very clear. And that final moment of whatever that happens after this, I want us to keep talking. I want us to be a team. I want us to work together. So we have at the end is we do have the coupling, the working relationship of Elliot and Mr. Robot together. And that they are able to, well, fix the world? Maybe that's really the big question here. Is they able to fix the world? Because that's the hesitation that Elliot had before he finally did hit the return key and send the keystroke algorithms and the unlock codes to eCore. And it's sort of reflected on what Darlene's friend says later on in that little coda scene is, how much is this really going to change? Will it affect the power players or does it affect the people? And will it help the people or just saddle them back with the debt that they thought that they were rid of? Will that fix everything? And when the people that control this information have that information, how will they use it? Will they keep information aside that's going to help them out in some recovery or buying or buyback or control and just let out the information that says, oh, by the way, you still owe us $80,000 in student debt loans? How can you trust that they're going to use that information properly? And I think that's where we're heading to when we get into next season, because Elliot does have that promise is, I want to go after the 1% of the 1%. They showed themselves. The real power players are really ones that go on, I want to bring them down. Stop going after saving the people. Stop going after the big company. A more surgical strike, as it were. And I think some of that might be in the way that this information is distributed is going to be part of his attack. So, a great way to wrap things up. As I said, with the keystroke, you can bring it back like 5.9 never was. Well, it won't be exactly like that. But it does wrap up our first 3 seasons with a major storyline of the hack, of the attack, of the fallout from it. Clears that up. For the most part, there'll be fallout, but gets us ready for the next phase. Let's call it stage 4. Which is the assault on the top 1% of the 1%. All right, few small things here. One, our time travel stories. Philip certainly believes that this is a complete psychotic viewpoint that an obsessed personality like White Rose has. And it entirely could be, but we do get several references, even especially towards the end. We, of course, had the scene from the Superman the movie, where Superman is flying around the Earth to reverse time. We also have the picture that Mr. Robot hid the key code in, and that was the one of him and little Elliot as Doc and Marty from Back to the Future. So we continue to have our time travel references throughout the show. Now, we do talk about Mr. Robot's final line. You could make it like this never happened. In a way, doing this, fixing 5.9, can turn back time in a figurative sense, which could be what they're going with. However, The amount of imagery that is used in this means this is not a part of the story that is over yet. Time travel is still something that's going to be an integral part of this storyline, even if it is just a psychotic manifestation in White Rose's mind. But she seems too smart for that. All right, now we didn't have a file type this week. We just have our command order, shutdown-r. Well, it's -r in the title. It's /r. Shutdown/r is the window command, and that is a command to remotely shut down and restart a computer, which is basically what is happening throughout this episode. It is a big shutdown and restart. Kind of like how you fix any computer problem. What's the first thing you do? You turn it off and you turn it back on again. That's sort of exactly what we are doing here. We're restarting and rebooting 5.9, getting rid of that. Dumb, kind of a whole restart on her career and approach towards life. Elliot and Darlene, even the relationship with Mr. Robot, it is a complete sort of shutdown and restart. We are beginning again. So, pretty applicable still to the rest of the episode. The email address that Elliot used to send Ecor the unlock codes, his email address was falconsmaze@proton.com. Falcon's Maze, complete reference, 1982 Matthew Broderick film, War Games, which was one of our first real actual hacker movies. Falcon's Maze was the first game on the list of game options that Matthew Broderick ran into, the last of which was, of course, global thermonuclear war. They used that information in order to find out about backdoors to get in, and that's how they unlocked that program. And of course, Falcon himself was the programmer that created the original programming for Whopper, the big computer there. So anyway, it was just a great catch, really stood out to me. I loved that movie and a great reference on many accounts. And finally, let us not forget that other final reveal at the end of the episode, our little coda. Who was it that walks up to Darlene? That's Fernando Vera, man. That's the old drug dealer, or Shayla's old drug dealer that Elliot had to help escape and took off into the wind right before Elliot found out the car he was riding around in all day had his girlfriend's dead body in the trunk. So yeah, he's been gone for a while. Not feeling good with him returning. That's definitely not going to be a good presence for Elliot's frame of mind. And just really an unexpected problem reemerging that we're going to have to deal with for season 4. So we're going to have psychotic drug dealer around Elliot. At the same time, Elliot is trying to take down the deadliest hacker on the planet. And the rest of the 1% of the 1%. So, yeah, tension, for sure. And you want more Mr. Robot action? We will be talking about the entire season this Saturday on Acton Tomco's webpage. I will put out the address as soon as I get it on my Twitter feed. Keep an eye out for that. Whole season, Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific. Don't miss it. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me with all of these reviews. I really hope you enjoyed the season. I thought it was awesome. Really, a lot of the power we had back from season 1. Season 2 did have some high and low points, but I think this season started off with a bang, went just all the way up until the end. I love they wrapped up these storylines, and then we've got something new to look forward to, a new sort of iteration of this storytelling for next season. So like I said, has been renewed, it's definitely happening, so sometime around October of next year, we should have season 4 of Mr. Robot. But that does wrap us up for now. Again, thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this review or any reviews, you know you can hit the like button, you can share us on your social media, you can write comments down, let me know what you thought about it. What are your ideas for season 4, where do you think they're going? Did you find this as rewarding as I did, or did they leave something out that you were sort of hoping they would tie up or cover? Please let me know in the section below. Now you can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes, though admittedly I use Twitter a lot more than I use Instagram. I'm trying. Subscribers, please subscribe. I know we're wrapping things up here, but we still have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We've got Legion coming out in February, it looks like. We don't have a determined date yet. Now, American Gods, which we were planning on, they seem to have lost their showrunners and haven't started production, so I'm not even sure about 2018 at the moment. We won't be getting Game of Thrones, but we'll be getting Westworld. So, a lot of things coming up. Things may be changing, maybe looking for a few more options, but you won't miss any of them if you're a subscriber. Do that by clicking my face right here. And I'll go ahead and throw up our latest couple of reviews right here, and you can check those out. Alright, so, again, thank you. I am D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.